Alright guys, today we're going to be covering gathering intelligence. What this is during a penetration test is trying to find as much information about your target as possible. What we're looking for are things like the network, domain names, mail servers, website, any information that you can get a better understanding of how your target is set up and what kind of potential vulnerabilities they have. Another thing about gathering intelligence is that there's two types. There's passive information and there's active information gathering. Passive information gathering is things that are available to the public, whereas information gathering is using things like port scanners or ping scanners and things like that to really actually probe into your organization to get some kind of feedback as to what's going on. So what we're looking for are the targeted computers and networks without actively engaging their systems in this situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to identify some IP addresses, some websites, and some people. Now, what you're going to do in this virtual machine environment that I've set up for you guys is you're going to have your Kali core machine running. And then you're going to download the virtual machine from the website, and I've already done that. And here, go to open a new virtual machine. Now, you will have to unzip that website. And to unzip it, it's pretty simple. What you have to do is download a program like 7-zip and right click it and just hit extract all files. And I extracted those files here, and you'll see it's in this virtual machine called Heisenberg Corp. So double click this and you'll see the Ubuntu 64-bit right here, and double click that to open it, and then hit play virtual machine. I didn't give this one too many resources because again, we're not actually utilizing this machine. Whenever you see this kind of message, don't say I moved it, always say I copied it. And now this virtual machine will run in the background. What you want to do though is you don't want to actually see anything going on, because sometimes when you're doing a penetration test, you don't have those kinds of facilities available to be able to see what's going on their computers, what kind of users are there. So what we're going to do is we're going to let that run in the background, and we're going to try to access as much of it as possible from our system here. And it's not a 100% realistic environment. What you're learning here isn't going to teach you, like I said in the introduction, how to become a professional penetration tester, but it'll introduce you to a lot of the ideas that are used in active pen tests. So what we're going to do first is we're going to find out what network we are on. What's our IP address? And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to open up terminal and type in a simple command called ifconfig. Now, the thing about ifconfig, it's like ipconfig that's used on Windows. This command is now deprecated, meaning that it's no longer, eventually this will no longer work. When I type this in the terminal, terminal won't understand exactly what's going on here. So what you want to do is you want to start using the newer commands, such as ipadder. And this is the new command to find your IP address. And the way that it puts out the information is a little bit different, so you will need to take a look. And again, you'll have the two different locations here. And what we're identifying, and this right here is your personal IP address. It's just a notation to tell you that this is your IP address. But what you'll see here in this iNet is 192.168.31.134. Now this is my personal IP address here. And the iNet here, this is in what's called a sitter notation. So the sitter notation, it's a way to tell you which bits are in your subnet and which bits are not. So whenever you see a subnet, for example, I have a subnet mask here. The subnet, it tells me what part of the larger network I'm on. A subnet is a smaller part of a large network. So what this is telling me is the 255.255.255.0 means that these first three sections are never going to change. The only things that will be everything in this last section. So any computers that I add to my subnetwork will only add here. Now in the subnetwork, subnet 1 is restricted to usually your router, and then subnet of 255 is not accessible. So you'll have a total of 255 addresses you can add. One of them will be taken up by your router. Now, what the sitter notation says is that these 24 first bits will never change right here. okay, in this particular notation. So each part of this IP address is made up of 8 bits. So you have 8 bits here, 8 bits here, 8 bits here, and 8 bits here. All right. And it says that the first 24 bits of this will not change. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this information to do a pretty quick scan to find out if there's other computers on this network. And let's just assume in this situation that we have some kind of physical access to the company's network to do the penetration test. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch a program called Zenmap. And Zenmap is a graphical interface version of a program called Nmap, and Nmap just stands for Network Mapper. And so this is a way for people to find out what types of network map, like what kind of things are set up on their network. It's just a mapping tool. Now, the thing is, right here, we're going to do more of an active type of gathering intelligence. And like, for example, let's say a company like Wells Fargo hired you to do a pen test. Well, they have a website that's open to everyone. You know, you go to wellsfargo.com and you can go from there to find out if there's any vulnerabilities, or if they might take a specific aspect of wellsfargo.com to test for vulnerability. In this situation, we don't know if that if what the company is, so we're going to scan for it. So again, all I'm going to do is take that sitter notation web address, and I'm going to copy that. So it's right here. And again, if you want to copy from terminal, it's Control-Shift-C, not Control-C. Control-C is to exit. So for example, if I had done Control-C here, you're going to see that it's going to terminate the active command and kill Zenmap in the back. All right, so I'm going to paste in, and right here, I don't have to hit Control-Shift to paste because this is just a standard GUI program. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want you to scan for all computers on my subnet. So I'm going to leave this at 0. So what this is going to do is it's going to go through my entire subnet and it's going to scan 192.168.31.1 and it's going to report back what it finds. Then it's going to go to 2 and then 3 and then 4 and keep going like that until it finishes at the last available address on my subnet. Now, there's a couple of different types of scans that we can use in this situation. What we're going to do is we're going to use a Quick Scan Plus. And what Quick Scan Plus is, it shows the IP addresses that are available on our network, as well as the operating systems that those addresses are using. And that is a very important tool, because the way that you gain access to a Windows machine is different from the way that you gain access to a Linux machine. So finding out the operating system really does help out a lot. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick scan on this, and it's going to start scanning on my subnet. And again, I haven't touched this virtual machine that's down here, so I don't really know what's going on here. And what this is going to do is tell me, hey, there's other machines available on this subnet. All right, so these are some of the machines that have popped up. And what you have here is 31.1. This is most likely my router. You have another one right here, which is 31.254, and we can actually go to this address here and figure out what this is. So there's too many fingerprints on this device. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I do have a couple of IoT devices at home, so it might be one of those. And we also have 31.2, and in this situation, it says the host is up, but it shows that all the ports are closed. So that means that there's no ports open. But here we have a couple of important things that pop up. On subnet of 192.168.31.138, in my subnet, address number 138, you have a computer system that has port 22, port 23, and port 80 open. Now, ports are essentially ways in and out of a computer. So let's say your computer network is a house. The port would be the doors or the windows that allows traffic in and out of that location. Now, the port 80 is the thing that's really important in this situation. So SSH is a type of remote access. It stands for Secure Shell. And Telnet was the old way of getting remote access to different files on a computer. The problem was Telnet is an unencrypted plain text way of getting information. So if you have a person setting up a man in the middle, they are technically able to see the traffic that you generate on this network, and it's not encrypted. So there's very little security here, whereas a Secure Shell does have that security built into it. Now, what we're going to do is we see that there's a port 80 open. It's running Apache. Now Apache is a web server. So a lot of companies use Apache. It's a really popular server. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this web address here and the IP address here, and we're simply going to open up a Firefox, new Firefox window, and we're going to paste that web address in. And look at that. We've got a little bit of information about our company. The company is called Heisenberg Corp, and it was founded by Walter and Jesse. And they created a revolutionary product by combining chemical knowledge and marketing expertise. I hope you guys like my little joke that I played here. Now, we've got a couple of important things of information here. Security is provided by Hank, and we have legal advice provided by Saul. Now, when you're looking at these types of things, there's a couple of things that we can figure out from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a basic text editor real quick, and I'm going to write down some information that I found. So the first thing that I found out is the name of the company. So the name of the company is Heisenberg Corp. All right, and we found a couple of users. We have potential users at least. So the users that we have on this computer system is we have potentially Walter, we have potentially Jesse, and Saul and Hank. Now, when you're doing any kind of gathering intelligence, you have to figure out where some of the security is and where some of the security isn't. And you have to remember, one of the biggest parts of computer security is the fact that humans are full of flaws. And we will set up a system that we think is okay, but actually has a lot of flaws in it. So if I'm looking at this, most likely Walter and Jesse are going to have the strongest security because they are the ones who founded the company. And you've got the security expert here, who is Hank. But this guy Saul is providing legal advice, and sometimes what companies will do is to be able to give Saul access to the company's resources whenever he needs, they'll make him a user, and sometimes those users will get too much access. So for example, let's take a look at a recent breach that was happened, which was the Target data hack, where a lot of credit card information was compromised. In that situation, you had an HVAC company that had a little bit too much access to the network, to the point where malware that was installed on the HVAC company was able to go into Target and collect the data from their point of sale computers. So let's assume, and we can do this logically, that Saul is most likely going to be our point of entry. So we can put a little asterisk next to Saul saying, hey, you know what? Of all of those that stand out, Saul is the only one who probably isn't directly employed by the company, but has some kind of importance to the company where they would put him on their website. And again, it's not going to be this crystal clear when you're dealing with a regular company, but this is a good place to get started. So once we figure this out, we have a couple of other ideas that we can use here. We know that we can get remote access into this computer because they do have remote access protocols open. So we also want to write down any kind of ports that we find open. So we have port 22, which is SSH. We have port 23, which is Telnet. And we have port 80, which is HTTP. And it's a really good idea to create a list for yourself of some of the more common ports that can be exploited and more common ports that you can get some access to a unit with. All right, so that's it for the gathering intelligence part. We've figured out some of the information that we need about our target, and we can move on to the next step, which is gaining access. So that will be covered in the next tutorial.